So I had this genius idea of going outside, filming some B shots, maybe some time-lapse footage here in Shinjuku. But I swear, Tokyo summers are so punishing. I'm like 11 herbs and spices away from becoming the next KFC bucket meal. Wait, I'm gonna move. If you live in Tokyo and you're saying that you love summer, you're lying. You're just straight up lying. I wish I had a Mentos or something. I'd probably deal with this easier.
Nothing gets to you, staying fresh, staying cool, with Mentos fresh and full of life.
Goodbye, soul. What you're looking at is a retired soul.
Show me your soul, baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Show me your soul, baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul.
Okay, relax. I know you thought that you caught me littering in the streets of Tokyo, but I didn't exactly leave my soul in Shinjuku, okay? In fact, what you don't know is that as soon as I started walking with my bottomless shoe, my other soul gave up on me. So for at least a few hours, I was a soulless bastard. But enough about me and my problems for a second, because I want to talk about something that I maybe should have included in the previous video, but this happened so many years ago that I think it deserves its own video. So yeah, story time. I may have mentioned in the past that I went through a beginner manga course at a manga school. Now that was actually in partnership with the language school that I went to. Now the setup was that every Monday to Friday, we would go to the language school, and for those of us that were in the manga course, every Wednesday would be the day that we would walk from the language school all the way to the manga school a few minutes away. The lessons themselves lasted from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. every week, and we took instructions from actual published mangaka. So some people that have experience working in the field, they would teach us the basics of using a G-pen, what kind of paper to use, so on and so forth. But as you may guess at this point, I wasn't actually there to learn about the skills needed to make manga. I just wanted to talk to the mangaka. This is the part of the video where I was supposed to tell you about how difficult it was initially to start talking to the mangaka about the manga industry, but I'll just make that a Patreon exclusive, so patreon.com/Kusanagi420. Long story short, these are some depressing words of wisdom that a mangaka gave me. Okay, depressing might be a very strong word to use, but it all depends on your perspective. And no, I'm not going to tell you about who the mangaka is, because they want their privacy to remain intact. And besides, it's been a few years already, so it's too late to ask for their permission now. And by the way, I'm paraphrasing these words for dramatic effect. And some of you may think that you already know what there is to know about the manga industry, but because these are the words of a mangaka in Japan, whatever you know about one side of the truth, the flip side just might be a bit messier. My editor was my second wife, until he wasn't. Right off the bat, this is very interesting, intriguing, and relatable at the same time. Going to a publisher to get published as a mangaka is like an arranged marriage, except it's a very one-sided affair. Now you will always be you, because you're the constant in the relationship, but the editor will always be assigned by the publisher. Now, depending on your compatibility, that may or may not be a good thing. Just like with any marriage, there is a honeymoon phase, and for a mangaka, that is their early success. Now usually at the start of their careers, mangaka can be very successful, and it seems like they and their editor can do no wrong. Now obviously that's far from the truth. As the series goes on and the mangaka's readership grows, expectations from the fans and the publication also change. Now, with these changes in expectations come an added pressure to work harder and sometimes to work longer. Now, for the mangaka that I talked to, he said that he actually had to isolate himself from his actual family in order to work more on the manga. And that meant that in some cases, he would talk to his editor more than his actual wife. Thus, the analogy. But when things got tough, the mangaka said that he got reminded the hard way that his editor was neither his second wife nor his friend. The editor was less forgiving. Now, he didn't really go into any detail as to what happened or how his relationship is with his editor right now, but he just told me to either get really good at my social skills or get lucky with my editor. And oh, as a footnote, he added that while his editor may be his second wife, his readers are his babies. He may try all that he can to please them, but they always find something to cry about. Listening to fans is overrated. Okay, this is 100% a paraphrase, just to make it more dramatic. In reality, it's a little bit sadder, depending on how you feel about the wording. I wish I didn't listen to my fans. Regardless of how you feel about that statement, I can totally understand where he's coming from, because we live in an age where anybody can go online, be anonymous, and express their opinions however harsh they are, without the actual fear of repercussion. And I know that some people firmly believe that creators should listen to their fans, but I don't necessarily think that should be the case for every creator and every piece of work in every industry. Some people take the word fans as a collective, and even though there are sometimes some majority opinions, there are microscopic differences from fan to fan, and when you take those into consideration, every fan has a different opinion, and when every fan has a different opinion, everything just becomes noise. The mangaka actually told me that he regretted making some story changes based on what his fans said, or based on what his editor thought would be good for his fans. And he said, maybe I should have stuck with my guts. And now every time I remember this conversation, I also get reminded of a quote by Jim Carrey in one of his speeches some time ago. You can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well take a chance on doing what you love. Okay, obviously I'm not saying that creators should ignore their fans. In fact, in something like games development, developers should totally listen to their fans in order to make the gameplay of their games better for the people that are playing it. But if you're a story writer or a storyteller, if you already have a story in your mind, just tell the story. No need to change it for your fans. Not every mangaka is Eiichiro Oda, but we are expected to be. Okay, here's a question. Out of all the similar types of consumable media out there for storytelling, like books, light novels, TV shows, and movies, which one is the most similar to manga? Some of you might say books or light novels because they're all written forms of media, but I think TV shows are the most similar to manga because of their scheduled, episodic, periodic nature of release. A lot of manga series are of course released by chapter, weekly, by design because they are aimed towards children or individuals who buy the magazines after school or after work. And if we're talking about the most popular manga out there, of course it's One Piece. By a lot. One Piece has been an ongoing series since the release of the first chapter in July of 1997. That's a freaking long time, and if you're Shonen Jump, you're a happy boy, and if you're Eiichiro Oda or Oda Eiichiro, depending on how you place the names, you're a goddamn golden goose. And if you're every other publisher out there, you're secretly searching for your own Eiichiro Oda. And that's the thing. Publication is a business, and of course publishers want to make as much money as they can because that's their metric for success, and that's why they're always looking for that next big hit. And now that the publishers have seen the heights that have been reached by One Piece, even though they might not outright say it, there's this immense level of pressure that they put onto every new mangaka out there in order to perform at the same level to reach an inflated amount of potential. And the biggest culprit of this, of course, is Shonen Jump. Shonen Jump is almost as notorious for canceling manga as Twitter is to canceling people. And while smaller publications, of course, don't operate at the same volume as Shonen Jump, apparently that instability is present in the entire industry. And that's a sad fact. Sometimes I wish I didn't want to become a mangaka. So this is the last thing that he said before we had to cut our conversation short because he was being called to a different room. And so he dropped the bomb. He said, "Sometimes I wish I didn't want to become a mangaka." And all I could say in return was, "Eh? どういう意味ですか?" Like, what do you mean? And so as he started walking towards the door, all he said was, "Well, because we always get taken advantage of." And nowadays, I think there's a term for that called passion tax, or enthusiasm exploitation, where people take advantage of other people who have some sort of passion or some sort of enthusiasm behind their work. So they really love what they do, so people ask them to do more, even though they get paid less, or even though the work conditions are not really bearable. Some days ago, I came across this YouTube video by somebody called Yiman, and he was detailing the struggles of a Japanese manga artist who at first glance would seem successful because 1, they have a published manga called Somali and the Forest Spirit, and 2, that manga has an anime adaptation. But for reasons mentioned in the video, the mangaka still found themselves struggling in the industry. They found themselves out of work and needing to get donations from fans. I'm not going to give you any more details because I highly recommend you watch that video for yourself, and the link will be down below if you want to do that. But that goes to show that the manga industry can be very harsh, especially if you're not a very big name just yet. And even though every mangaka will have a different experience in the manga industry, I think it's safe to say that everybody will struggle at some point in their career. And if you're a fan of any manga out there, I think it's important to note that there might be literal blood, sweat, and tears behind the production of that manga. So I hope you appreciate every page. That's it from me today. I'll see you in the next one.